Good morning, everybody. Hello, how are you? I'll say that like you can talk. I hope you're all doing well. So today is February 1st, and I thought it would be a fun video if I talked you guys through what I read last month. So last month I read 7 books, which is not a lot for me in a month. Normally I'm reading about 10-ish, sometimes more books a month. But last month was a slow reading month. There was a lot going on and I wasn't really in a reading mood for a bit of it. And a couple of those books, or one of those books was an audiobook. And so listening to an audiobook it takes a lot longer than reading an actual book. But there's 7 books to go through, so we are going to get straight into the video. Okay, so I am going off of my trusty reading notebook here, which has all of the books in order of what I read them, or of when I started. Great start to the video when you realise you grabbed the wrong book. So book number 1 is Lords of the North by Bernard Cornwell. I love this book. This was the first Cornwell book I read this year. I read books 1 and 2. This is book 3 in the Last Kingdom series. The sun just came out. I read book 1 and 2 in the Lords of, no, not the Lords of the North series, the Last Kingdom series, back in December. And I read this, when did I start it? I started it on January 1st and finished it January 7th, so it took me a week. This was really good. I gave it a 5 out of 5 rating. I gave the majority of my Cornwell books a 5 out of 5 rating just because they're all really good. I can't remember if this one made me cry. The majority of these books have made me cry. So I actually bought this copy. We had a paperback copy of this book and another book in the series, and I bought this one and that one hardback so that we could have hardback copies of all of them. But of course that plan was flawed, as all good plans are, because I bought a hardback copy of Death of Kings, which is the one I'm currently reading, which is book 6, and they delivered a paperback copy. So we've just decided to keep the paperback copy because it was going to be more hassle than it was worth sending it back and getting a refund or getting another copy. So we're just going to keep this one and buy a new one. But anyway, Lords of the North. I didn't write a review for this one, which is a little annoying. And I can't quite remember what happened in it, but I do remember really, really enjoying it. I remember quite a few characters were introduced in this series. This series had an amazing scene in the second part of the book. These books are always split into 3 parts. I think one of them may have had 4 parts. But in the second part of this book, there was a scene that just blew my mind. And I talked with Dad about it, and he was like, that was a scene that made him decide he was going to buy these every year when they came out. So these started coming out in 2004, so the year I was born, and they finished coming out I think maybe 2019 or 2020. And last night I finished one of the books on this list that I'll tell you about that was a Last Kingdom book, and as I was reading it, I was sitting in my room reading it, and the doors were open because one of the cats was just kind of pacing, and I couldn't be bothered to keep standing up and going and opening the door. And all of a sudden I could hear really familiar music, and I was like, what's that? Couldn't place it. And then all of a sudden I heard someone yell out Uhtred, and I was like, Dad's watching The Last Kingdom. But yeah, this was book number 1 of January's reading list. 5 out of 5 stars, loved it. Book number 2 was We Could Be Villains by McCollough. I'm just gonna go with that as her name. I'm gonna apologize now forever because I can't keep saying that. This book was amazing. I started this on the 8th and I finished it on the 15th, so it took a little bit longer. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 just because there were a few bits in the middle where I think I was just a little confused, and I was never bored. It was not because I was bored, it was plainly because I think there were just a couple things in there that I was like, that doesn't make sense, or what does that mean? Is that going to have any effect on the story? Other than that, this was brilliant. I have 5 quotes written down from this book. I loved it. I adored it. I thought there were quite a few plot twists in here, and I saw a couple of them coming and I was really proud of myself that I did. But then the majority of them I didn't see coming at all, and they really shocked me. Like that good kind of shocked though. And I think the last quarter of the book was probably my favourite part. Just because it was just something after everything. Just boom, 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 things happened. It was really, really good. And so I am waiting eagerly for any news about book 2, because this is not a standalone, this is a series. I think she said on her Instagram she was planning on it being a 3-book series, but at the moment she doesn't know if she'll write them, like if she'll get to write 3 of them. I hope she does, because I think this book is amazing and it deserves so much. Yeah, and I mean, anything that feels like reading a Marvel movie, I'm gonna love it, as long as it's good, you know. And this book was a Marvel movie, but so much more. I loved it. So yeah, that was book number 2 of January. Now, book number 3 is a Kindle copy. I don't have a physical copy of the book, and it is Oracle of Life by Katherine Graham. I ARC read this book for Katherine. I'm part of the street team for the Lord's Gambit series, as well as an ARC reader for the Lord's Gambit series. I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars just because there was a lot packed into this. Because it's an introduction to the world and an introduction to these characters, it felt like there was just quite a lot crammed in. So it was amazing. I'm not saying it wasn't. There were just times where I was a little bit overwhelmed and overloaded by information. Other than that, it was brilliant. The characters were great, the pacing was great, the plot was great. It's made me really excited for book 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. I got a sneak peek at the finished blurb for book 4 yesterday. Katherine messaged me and she was like, "Can I pick your brains about this blurb?" And I was like, yes, please, yes. And on my days it sounds amazing. So book 1 is Oracle of Life, book 2 is Monk of Death. There will be a link down below to pre-order that. That comes out on Valentine's Day on the 14th of February, so make sure to pre-order that now. Yeah, so book 1, Oracle of Life, book 2, Monk of Death, book 3, The Vanguard of Justice, which comes out in March, book 4, The Chronicler of War, which comes out in April, and book 5, The Goddess of War, which comes out in May. Yes, Katherine is fast releasing these, I think that's what they're called, so it's 1 book a month for the first 5 months of 2023. I'm really excited. I mean, yeah, I'm so excited. It's book number 4 is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson, which is this book right here. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 star rating. I listened to the audiobook for that. Which is why it took so long to read. I started reading this on the 3rd and I finished on the 28th, so it took the majority of the month, which, you know, is fine. I was reading other things while listening, but yeah, I've got something stuck in my throat. I really enjoyed this. It was a nice kind of standalone story. You don't get many standalones when it comes to Sanderson, and it was really nice having one, and it was nice having a book where the chapters were actually quite short. Sanderson is known for having very lengthy chapters, whereas like the chapters in Stormlight and Mistborn, in the audiobooks they can be anything from 30 minutes to 60 minutes. Whereas the chapters in this went from kind of 10 to 20 minutes, which was very, very nice. It was very nice having shorter chapters. There were still quite a few chapters. I think there was 65, including the epilogue. But shorter and more chapters is always my preferred style. of reading, because I feel like I'm actually getting through the book when I'm reading shorter chapters. One of the other things I loved about this is that it was illustrated, so when you read the Kindle copy, or if you backed on the Kickstarter and you got a physical copy, if so, I'm quite jealous, then you will be able to look at the images. So there are quite a few illustrations in the book, and they're so beautiful and so amazing, and it was kind of interesting because it's not like that in any of his other books. But I did like that aspect of the book. I have 7 quotes written down and a shorter but still quite lengthy review. The last thing I wrote in my review is that I love Tress's obsession with cups. So she, like, it's said in the first chapter, she collects teacups. And as someone who always gets very kind of annoyed and emotional whenever my mum is like, you have to throw away a couple of these mugs, Caitlin, because you just got too many, I can identify with Tress's obsession with cups. When I get my own place, there will be cupboards full of cups. But yeah, I loved Tress. I thought she was really, really cool. She was quite badass, which I loved. And this book was interesting because, yet again, it's just another example of there's no way that someone can come into the Cosmere and start anywhere now. You gotta start at the beginning, and I love that. Okay, book number 5 is Sword Song by Bernard Cornwell. This is book 4 in the Last Kingdom series. I gave this a 5 out of 5 star. I started on the 15th and I finished it on, I think that says the 19th. So it did not take me long to read this. I was obsessed. There was so many good scenes in this, and there was a lot more fighting in it, which was great because Cornwell writes some of the best battle sequences I've ever read. They're brilliant. They're masterpieces. And like, I knew that from Dervahl's books, which are the Warlord Chronicles. Those books have some amazing battle sequences in, and these battle sequences just are like that, but like even better because there's more of them. Every book in this series ends with a battle, and I think that's such a great way of ending the book. I think this was the book where I started to struggle with some things in it. So for example, the brutality towards the women in this series. So there's a horrible scene in the book where basically a woman who has quite a lot of power, her husband doesn't believe that the child she's carrying is his, and so he takes her to the church, and they are basically performing this ceremony to see whether or not she's pure, like whether or not the child is his or if it's someone else's. And the way that they go about it, I'm not going to say it and I don't want to spoil it, but it was really hard to read. Like I really struggled reading it. I was in tears. Yeah, it was horrible, and I think it was just another thing because what made it worse is that it's really real. It happens still. There's still people that do things like that, and I think that's quite sad. That was quite intense in this book. In the whole series, there have been scenes like that. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking about that because I don't want to bring you down. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. It was great. Yeah. Book number 6 is My Name is Victoria by Lucy Worsley. This was my January TBR book. For those that don't know, I'm doing like a series where basically I have wrapped 12 books on my TBR, and I'm wrapping one each month, and I have to read that book that month. And it is basically just a challenge for me to try and get through some of the books on my TBR. So this was January's book. I've unwrapped February's book. I know what it is. You guys will find out next Friday, so be sure to stick around for that. And while I'm saying that, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps me out, helps other people find my channel, and it helps me know you guys are watching my channel and that you enjoy my content. But yeah, this was January's book. I have not written a rating down. So let's check Goodreads. I gave it a 4-star rating, plainly because there were a few things in here where I was actually quite bored. But other than that, otherwise, I really enjoyed it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quotes written down. So basically this book is part fiction, part non-fiction. Obviously there was a lot in this book that is real, such as Queen Victoria. Many of the characters in this series, in this story are real. Some of the events are real, but there is also a good amount of non-fiction in this book, which was quite enjoyable. For example, the ending in this book is completely different to what happened in history. And I really liked that aspect of it. I thought it was a really interesting twist. And it got me thinking kind of like, if this ending was real, how could that have affected history, you know? Yeah, but it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I learned quite a bit while reading this book. For example, I didn't know what the Kensington system was exactly. I knew there was something called the Kensington system that had been put in place around Queen Victoria. So Victoria isn't actually the main character in this, she's a side character. The main character is a young girl called Miss V, who is Queen Victoria's companion. Her dad is Sir Conroy, who, if you know about Queen Victoria, you'll know that Sir Conroy was kind of the her mother's advisor. He was her mother's advisor, and I think it was advisor, and basically he kind of put into place the Kensington system. So, as you can guess, Victoria has a bit of resentment towards Miss V, because it was her father that kind of placed her in this prison almost. The prison that is the Kensington system, that kept her quite isolated and quite lonely. But yeah, I really liked kind of reading and meeting and reading along with Miss V's story, and how certain things happened that affected both her and Victoria. I thought that was really interesting. I'm not sure if my screen has gone dark or if I have gone dark. Right, I don't know. I tried fixing it and I can't, so I'm really sorry if all of a sudden I've gone very like dark. But yeah, I really enjoyed reading this, and yeah. And the last book that I read in January is The Burning Land by Bernard Cornwell. Another Last Kingdom book. This was the book I finished. I finished it yesterday. I started it on the 21st and I finished it on the 31st. I loved this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 star rating. I think I struggled with the beginning. The beginning felt quite long and dragged out, and I don't think it helped that there weren't chapters in this. In all of the other books there have been chapters, whereas this one didn't. It just had 3 parts, and the parts were just one continuously long chapter. That was a little weird, and quite annoying because it felt like there were no breaks. There were page breaks, obviously, but other than that there wasn't really anything. But yeah, so it took me a while to kind of get into it at first. I think once I'd started, so I read this in, I don't know, I think I'd read like what could be the equivalent of maybe 2 chapters between the 21st and the 29th. And on the 29th I read on the 30th I read all of part 1 that I hadn't read, and then yesterday, the 31st, I read part 2 and 3. So I probably could have read this in maybe 3 days, and then maybe gotten another book done, but it's fine, you know, things happen. I really enjoyed this. It was probably not my favourite Last Kingdom book. I think that will probably be the 3rd one at the moment, but I did enjoy it. It was very good. It was nice seeing Uhtred again. Again, this book had me in tears. In part 1, I was in floods of tears because of something that had happened that I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to spoil you. But it was interesting at the end. The things that happened after that, it kind of caused a domino effect of things happening to Uhtred. Yeah, but I really, really enjoyed this. It was brilliant. Okay, It's not really future me. I'm in the same spot in the same clothes. But I forgot to mention in this video before I ended it, I am filming a I Read Books recommended by you guys video for the end of February, beginning of March, and I need recommendations. I did ask on my Instagram, I didn't get many responses, so I've asked on Goodreads because I always get recommendations on Goodreads, which is brilliant, and it quite often helps me find what I want to read next. But if you guys have any recommendations, please let me know. It would really help me out. Just either leave them in a comment down below or let me know over on Instagram. You can just pop over there, comment on a post, send me a DM, just let me know. It would be really appreciated. I don't mind what they are. You can recommend as many books as you want. I will pick a couple of the books, and depending on how many I do, I might make this a series. I don't know, but yeah, just let me know what you guys have. So yeah, that was the books that I read in January. This month I'm hoping to read maybe 10 books because I would just like to kind of up how many books I'm reading. At the moment I'm reading Death of Kings, which is the next book in the Bernard Cornwell series in the Last Kingdom. I need to read my TBR book. We have Monk of Death coming out. We have Rebelling with a Bad Boy by Sarah Sutton coming out. You can pre-order both of those in the description. There will be links down there. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys read in January. If you had a certain amount of books that you wanted to read. Did you hit those books? Did you not? What books did you read? Just let me know. I'd love to chat about it. Have you read any of these books? If so, what were your opinions on them? And I will see you guys on Monday. Bye!